The galaxy held its breath. 342 species, spanning 17,000 light-years of cosmic real estate, collectively paused as the unprecedented signal rippled through subspace. On the Central Galactic Council Station, a marvel of engineering that had taken 4 species working in harmony for 60 years to complete. High Chancellor Vraxen's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among the Thraxi. "Verify," he croaked, his normally melodious voice cracking. "Verify the readings again." First Adjutant Salnera, her blue-scaled hands trembling slightly, ran the diagnostic sequence once more. The holographic display hovering above the Grand Chamber's center pulsed with the same alarming data. "Verified, High Chancellor. The unidentified vessel has just destroyed the Creel battle cruiser Inevitable Dominance. Time from engagement to the cruiser's destruction, 11 standard minutes." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. The Creel were among the most technologically advanced military powers in the galaxy. Their battle cruisers, each the size of a small moon, were considered virtually invulnerable. The last time a Creel vessel had been destroyed in combat was over 8 centuries ago. "What manner of weaponry?" asked Ambassador Thizik of the Varasian Collective, mandibles clicking in agitation. Selnera's throat sac inflated briefly before she answered. "Unknown, Ambassador. Our analysis suggests directed energy weapons of unprecedented power coupled with kinetic projectiles moving at impossible velocities." High Chancellor Vraxen steepled his long, 4-jointed fingers. "And we are certain this vessel originated from the quarantine zone." "From Earth. The trajectory is unambiguous," confirmed Admiral Xanfor of the Galactic Defense Fleet, his crystalline body glimmering with stress patterns. "The vessel emerged from the Sol system approximately 14 standard days ago. We've been tracking it since it triggered the boundary sensors, but it has consistently outpaced our fastest interceptors." An unsettling quiet fell over the chamber. The quarantine around the Sol system had been established nearly 3 centuries ago, after long-range observations revealed the alarming development of the dominant species, humans. Unlike the careful, guided evolution that characterized most sentient species, humans had developed unpredictably, a chaotic explosion of technological advancement coupled with an apparent predisposition for conflict. The decision to isolate them had been unanimous. The risks were simply too great. And now, somehow, they had broken through. "Show me the vessel," Vraxen commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing an image that caused several council members to involuntarily recoil. The human ship bore little resemblance to the elegant biomimetic designs favored by most spacefaring civilizations. It was angular, asymmetrical, with harsh lines and exposed weapon systems. It radiated menace. "That's primitive," whispered Thizik, mandibles now completely still in shock. "Deceptively so," corrected Xanfor. "Our preliminary analysis suggests a propulsion system unlike anything in our records. The hull composition includes elements we cannot identify, and there are energy signatures emanating from within that defy our understanding of physics." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen watched the alien vessel disintegrate from the bridge of the UES Defiance. Unlike her more excitable crew members, she maintained her composure, dark eyes narrowing slightly as the enemy ship's reactor went critical in a spectacular but silent eruption of light and debris. "Damage report," she said, her voice level. "Minimal, Commander," replied Lieutenant Rodriguez from the tactical station. "Shields at 82%. Minor hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, already contained. No casualties." Chen nodded, allowing herself a moment of relief. This had been their first real combat test since departing Earth, and the alien cruiser had proven formidable, exactly as expected based on the intelligence gathered during decades of covert observation. "Captain Reeves to the bridge," she said, tapping her comm implant. Within moments, the turbolift doors whispered open, and Captain Thomas Reeves strode onto the bridge. Despite being in his 60s, the captain moved with the confidence and energy of a much younger man. His weathered face, bearing the scars of Earth's last war, was unreadable as he surveyed the aftermath displayed on the main view screen. "I see you handled things in my absence, Commander," he said, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Just following your standing orders, sir," Chen replied. "They'd fired first." Reeves grunted in acknowledgement as he settled into the command chair. Status of the communication array. "Fully operational," reported Communications Officer Park. "We're receiving thousands of transmissions from throughout the sector. Many appear to be distress calls or alerts. Our translation algorithms are still processing, but the general tone seems to be panic." "Not surprising," Reeves mused. "According to our intelligence, no one's managed to take down a Creel warship in centuries." He stood, clasping his hands behind his back as he addressed his bridge crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know this isn't what any of us signed up for. Operation Handshake was supposed to be a peaceful first contact mission. But after decades of watching alien ships abduct humans for study, after confirming that Earth has been deliberately quarantined and held back from joining the galactic community, well, we needed to demonstrate that humanity won't be ignored or contained." Chen watched her captain carefully. Despite his calm demeanor, she could sense the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The Defiance carried not just its crew of 300, but the hopes and fears of an entire planet. "Our orders remain unchanged," Reeves continued. "We proceed to the Galactic Council station and request formal diplomatic recognition of Earth. We use force only when attacked. But make no mistake." His eyes hardened. "We will not be returning to a quarantined Earth, regardless of the Council's decision." As the Defiance adjusted course toward the heart of galactic civilization, neither Captain Reeves nor his crew could anticipate the true nature of the storm they were sailing into. For in the shadowed corners of the Council chamber, representatives of ancient species were already whispering of prophecies long forgotten. Prophecies that spoke of the coming of a race born in violence, but destined to either save the galaxy or consume it. And among them, an observer watched with particular interest. Not all species had agreed with the quarantine. Some had argued for a more final solution to the human problem. The game was now in motion, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the Secure Archives section of the Council station, Ambassador Lirith of the Medusan Conclave moved silently through stacks of ancient data crystals. Unlike most Council members who communicated through standard neural interfaces, Lirith's species preferred direct contact with information, a quirk that had earned her the position of historical archivist, despite the political machinations that typically govern such appointments. Her serpentine form glided between towering data repositories, stopping at a section sealed with warning glyphs in 17 different languages. With a precise movement of her upper appendage, she bypassed the security measures and extracted a crystal that hadn't been accessed in over 5 centuries. "I knew you'd come here," a voice said from the shadows. Lirith didn't startle. She'd sensed the presence moments earlier. Observer Cathal. "I didn't realize the Watchers took such an interest in historical research." The figure that emerged seemed to absorb rather than reflect the ambient light. Cathal's species was among the oldest in the galaxy, rumored to have achieved sentience when most worlds were still cooling from their formation. History and prophecy are often the same thing viewed from different temporal perspectives, Cathal replied, moving closer to examine the crystal in Lirith's grasp. "The forgotten texts of Erisai. You think they relate to these humans?" Lirith's skin rippled with chromatic patterns, her species equivalent of a psi. The destruction of a Creel warship by an emerging species. The timing aligns too perfectly with the 7th prophecy. Cathal remained silent for several moments, internal eyes processing information at speeds incomprehensible to most beings. "Your theory contradicts the majority opinion of the Council. Many believe these humans must be contained, or eliminated, before they spread beyond their system. The majority opinion has been wrong before," Lirith countered, carefully activating the crystal. Ancient symbols projected into the space between them, swirling and rearranging into patterns. The texts speak of the fractured ones who forge unity through conflict, a species that carries both salvation and oblivion in their contradictory nature. Poetic, but vague, Cathol observed. It could describe a dozen species we've encountered, none of whom destroyed a Creole battle cruiser with their first ship to leave their home system. Lyrith said pointedly, "The Council fears what it doesn't understand. I intend to understand." As the two ancient beings debated humanity's place in cosmic prophecy, the UES Defiance continued its approach to the Council station, unaware of the ideological battle already raging over their existence. Deep in the engineering section of the Defiance, Chief Engineer Akira Tanaka crawled through a maintenance shaft, muttering curses in 3 languages as she examined the damage from their recent engagement. "How's it looking, Chief?" came the voice of Dr. Elena Volkov through the comm. "Could be worse," Tanaka replied, wiping sweat from her brow. The new alloy held better than expected against their energy weapons, but the molecular structure shows signs of degradation I didn't anticipate. She emerged from the shaft to find Volkov waiting, tablet in hand. The ship's chief scientist looked as exhausted as Tanaka felt. Neither had slept more than a few hours since the encounter with the alien vessel. "The captain wants a full report on both the damage and what we learned about their weapons," Volkov said, brushing a strand of graying hair from her face. "Military command back home is especially interested in our analysis." Tanaka snorted. "Of course they are. We're out here trying not to start an interstellar war, and they're already thinking about the next weapon system. Can you blame them?" Volkov asked quietly. "We've spent 3 centuries being studied like lab rats, abducted for experiments, our development deliberately stunted by the quarantine. Some caution is warranted." The 2 women made their way to the main engineering lab, where fragments of the Creole vessel recovered during the battle were being analyzed. Dozens of engineers and scientists worked in organized chaos, Earth's finest minds assembled for humanity's first true venture into the galactic community. "The quantum structure of their hull material is unlike anything we've theorized," said Dr. Wei Chen, one of Volkov's top researchers, pointing to a molecular simulation. "It seems to adapt to energy weapons, redistributing the impact across its surface. Which explains why our initial laser barrage did minimal damage." Tanaka nodded. "Good thing the kinetic accelerators weren't so easily countered." "Simple physics still works," Volkov agreed with grim satisfaction. They didn't expect relativistic projectiles from a primitive species. On the bridge, Captain Reeves studied the approaching Council station with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The massive structure defied human architectural understanding. Parts seemed to flow and shift like a living organism, while others displayed impossible geometries. "We're being hailed again, Captain," reported Officer Park. "Same message as before, ordering us to reverse course or face destruction. And our response remains the same," Reeves said firmly. "We come in peace, seeking diplomatic recognition and an end to Earth's quarantine. We will defend ourselves if attacked, but wish only for peaceful dialogue." Commander Chen approached, lowering her voice. "Sir, we're detecting movement from the station's defensive platforms. They appear to be powering up." Reeves nodded, having expected this. "Maintain course. Shields at maximum. No aggressive posture, but have the point defense systems ready." "Captain." Chen hesitated before continuing. "Some of the crew are questioning whether this approach is wise. The Creole ship was one thing, but taking on the entire Council. I share their concerns, Commander," Reeves admitted. "But we've spent too long in isolation, watching ships come and go from our system, taking our people, denying us our place among the stars. If we turn back now, Earth might wait another century for this chance." As the Defiance continued its approach, automated warning beacons flared to life around them, broadcasting in thousands of languages. The message was clear: turn back or be destroyed. In the Council chamber, debate had devolved into chaos. Some species called for immediate military action, others for diplomatic outreach. A few, primarily the older races, remained silent, watching with the patience of beings who measured time in millennia rather than moments. High Chancellor Vraxen struggled to maintain order as reports flooded in about the human vessel's approach. His species had led the Council for 3 generations, maintaining peace through careful balance and deliberate progress. These humans threatened everything with their unpredictability. The vessel continues to advance despite warnings, Admiral Xanfor reported, his crystalline form now pulsing with urgent patterns. They maintain their request for diplomatic recognition. Their weapon systems remain active but not targeting. A deception, growled the Creole representative, his massive form dominating his section of the chamber. They destroy our finest ship without provocation. That is not what our intelligence suggests, came the quiet voice of Observer Cathol, who had entered the chamber unnoticed. The Creole vessel fired first, after the human ship refused to surrender. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the ancient being, who rarely participated in council proceedings. These humans, Cathol continued into the silence, deserve our attention, not our fear. Behind him, Ambassador Lyrith entered, carrying the ancient data crystal. And perhaps, she added, her voice resonating strangely, they also deserve our hope. The council chamber erupted into pandemonium at Ambassador Lyrith's words. Representatives from dozens of species shouted over one another, demanding explanations, calling for action, or simply trying to comprehend the implications of the ancient data crystal now projecting its cryptic symbols above the central platform. Silence. Vraxen's amplified voice cut through the chaos, his normally stoic demeanor cracking under pressure. Ambassador Lyrith, explain yourself immediately. What hope could these humans possibly bring to a galaxy that has known peace for millennia? Lyrith slithered forward, her movements fluid and purposeful. The forgotten texts speak of a species that would emerge from isolation, bearing both the marks of conflict and creation. They are described as forged in contradiction, carriers of chaos and order intertwined. For thousands of cycles, we assumed this referred to a long-extinct race, but now I believe. Superstitious nonsense, interrupted the Creole representative, slamming a massive fist against the chamber wall, leaving a spiderweb of cracks. While you debate ancient fairy tales, a primitive species that has barely mastered faster-than-light travel has destroyed one of our most powerful vessels, and now approaches this very station. Admiral Xanfor stepped forward, his crystalline body now pulsing with urgent red patterns. The human vessel will be within weapons range in 17 minutes. Our defense systems are fully activated. But, he hesitated, unusual for his species. But what, Admiral? Demanded Vraxen. But our simulations indicate their shields may be capable of withstanding our initial defensive barrage. Their technology appears unconventional, efficient in ways we hadn't anticipated. Observer Cathol moved to stand beside Lyrith, creating an unlikely alliance between two of the oldest species represented in the Council. Perhaps, he suggested, his voice barely above a whisper yet somehow carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, we should hear what they have to say before we attempt to destroy them. A tense silence fell over the chamber as the implications of his words sank in. The Watchers rarely took positions on council matters, preferring to observe and record. For Cathol to speak so directly meant something truly unprecedented was unfolding. Aboard the Defiance, Captain Reeves stood at the viewport in his ready room, watching as the massive council station grew larger against the backdrop of stars. In his 35 years of military service, he had never felt the weight of responsibility quite so heavily. The door chimed, pulling him from his thoughts. "Enter," he called, not turning from the view. Commander Chen stepped in, followed by Dr. Volkov. Both women carried data tablets and expressions of equal concern. "Report," Reeves said simply. Chen spoke first. "Their defensive systems are fully powered. Our analysis suggests they could cause significant damage, but Lieutenant Rodriguez believes our shields would hold long enough for us to deliver our message, or retreat if necessary." Reeves nodded. "And the response to our transmissions? Still the same automated warnings?" Chen replied. Though we're detecting increased communication traffic between the station and surrounding systems, it appears our arrival has caused quite a stir. As expected, Reeves turned to face them, his weathered features set in determination. Dr. Volkov, what have you found? The scientist hesitated before activating her tablet, projecting a three-dimensional image of the data crystal they had recovered during one of the many alien abductions that had plagued Earth for centuries, the catalyst for this mission. The translation algorithms have finally deciphered enough to confirm our suspicions, she said, her voice tight with anticipation. The quarantine around Earth wasn't just to contain us, it was to protect us, or more accurately, to preserve us. Preserve us for what? Chen asked, her brow furrowing. That's still unclear, Volkov admitted, but references keep appearing to something called the coming darkness, and humanity's supposedly unique ability to face it. Reeves absorbed this information with outward calm, though his mind raced with implications. So some factions wanted us isolated until we were needed, while others, like the Creel, saw us as a threat to be eliminated before we could develop further. It appears so, Volkov nodded. The data suggests a schism in the Council dates back centuries regarding Earth. We weren't just discovered recently. We've been observed, studied, and debated for longer than our recorded history. A sharp alert tone interrupted them. Captain, to the bridge, came Lieutenant Rodriguez's urgent voice over the comm. The station has deployed fighter craft. Lots of them. Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Tanaka barked orders as her team raced to reinforce the shield generators. The ship shuddered slightly as it adjusted course, compensating for the sudden appearance of smaller vessels swarming from the station. Torres, reroute auxiliary power to the forward deflector array, she commanded, fingers flying across 3 different control panels simultaneously. Paddle, I need those stabilizers at 110%. Safety protocols be damned. A young engineer approached, face pale. Chief, we're detecting energy buildups from the station. Massive ones. Whatever they're powering up, it makes that Creedle cruiser look like a toy. Tanaka swore under her breath. Inform the bridge immediately. Then help me bypass the safety regulators on the reactor. We might need every ounce of power we can squeeze out of this old girl. On the bridge, Reeves took his place in the command chair, face grim as the view screen displayed dozens of alien vessels forming a blockade between the Defiance and the station. Open a channel, he ordered. All frequencies, all languages our systems can translate. Officer Park worked frantically at her station. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting wide. Reeves stood, straightening his uniform, conscious that this moment would likely be recorded in whatever passed for history books among the stars. This is Captain Thomas Reeves of the United Earth ship Defiance. We come seeking diplomatic recognition and an end to Earth's isolation. We have no desire for conflict, but will defend ourselves if attacked. We request direct communication with the Galactic Council leadership. The response was immediate, not in words, but in action. The swarm of vessels began to move in complex patterns, clearly coordinating for an attack. At the same moment, the massive station itself seemed to shiver, sections of its structure reconfiguring to reveal weapons emplacements on a scale beyond human comprehension. They're targeting our engines, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Attempting to disable rather than destroy. Small mercy, Chen muttered. Reeves retook his seat, eyes fixed on the screen. Shields at maximum. Evasive pattern delta. And prepare our response package. Chen's head snapped toward him. Sir, the response package was authorized only as a last resort. Lirith and Cathal exchanged a look of ancient understanding before Lirith answered, her voice dropping to a register that sent chills through every being present. The end of everything, or its salvation. The council chamber fell into stunned silence at Lirith's words. Even the Creel representative's rage seemed momentarily frozen. In that silence, the station's sensors registered something new, something impossible. High Chancellor, Admiral Xanfor's voice shook, crystal form pulsing with patterns never before seen in his species, we're detecting multiple spatial anomalies forming throughout the system. The main display shifted to show tears in the fabric of reality itself, dozens of them, rippling into existence around the station, around the Defiance, around every celestial body within sensor range. What is the meaning of this? Vraxen demanded, turning to Cathal and Lyrith. Is this some human weapon? No, Cathal whispered, genuine fear evident in his ancient voice. It has begun. The darkness comes earlier than foretold. From the spatial rifts emerged vessels of a design unknown to any species present, obsidian constructs that seemed to absorb both light and hope, their very presence distorting the surrounding space. They moved with purpose, encircling the station and the human ship alike. Aboard the Defiance, alarms blared as sensors detected the new arrivals. What the hell are those? Commander Chen breathed, staring at the view screen in disbelief. Lieutenant Rodriguez shook his head, fingers dancing across his console. Unknown configuration. They're not matching any signatures in our database, not even those we extracted from the alien abduction craft. Captain Reeves leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Are they targeting us? Not yet, sir, Rodriguez replied. But they've positioned themselves to engage both us and the Council forces. Their weapons, if those are weapons, are unlike anything we've encountered. The comm system suddenly crackled with a signal that bypassed all encryption protocols, all security measures. The sound that emerged wasn't language as humans understood it, more like the concept of communication itself forced into audible form. Every crew member on the bridge clutched their heads in pain as the signal resolved into coherent thought. At last, the experiment UDs. The harvesters HFY. In engineering, Chief Tanaka stumbled against a console as the alien transmission reverberated through her mind. When she looked up, her eyes widened in horror. Through the viewport, she could see one of the dark vessels approaching, its surface seeming to shift and flow like liquid shadow. What's happening? She demanded over the comm. Bridge, we need information. But there was no response. Communications throughout the ship suddenly failed as a localized energy field enveloped the Defiance. In the council chamber, Ambassador Lyrith activated the ancient data crystal, its projection expanding to fill the entire space. Symbols and equations swirled around the assembled representatives, revealing truths hidden for millennia. You fools, she hissed, her usual diplomatic restraint abandoned. While you quarantined humanity, fearing their potential for violence, you ignored the real threat. The humans aren't the harbingers of the darkness. They're the only species evolved specifically to fight it. Observer Cathal moved to stand beside her, addressing the council with unprecedented urgency. The quarantine was never meant to contain humans. It was meant to shield them, to allow them to develop the unique traits needed for what comes next. High Chancellor Vraxen stared at the obsidian ships now surrounding the station. And what comes next, Observer? War, Cathal replied simply. A war for the existence of all sentient life. And our only hope now rests with the species we spent centuries treating as savages. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as the alien vessels, both Council and Harvester, hung in space around his ship. The comm system had been restored, but only partially, allowing fragmented communication with the station. What do they want? He asked, the question directed at no one in particular. To feed, came an unexpected reply as the main view screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Lyrith and Observer Cathal. The harvesters consume consciousness itself, the more advanced, the more satisfying. They'd been waiting for galactic civilization to reach its peak before beginning their harvest. Chen stepped forward. If that's true, why haven't they attacked yet? Because of you, Cathal answered simply. Your ship, your species, is an anomaly they cannot categorize. Human consciousness evolved differently, shaped by contradiction and conflict in ways unique among sentient beings. Reeves exchanged glances with his officers. That's why Earth was quarantined. to protect us from them. Yes and no, Lirith replied. The quarantine served two purposes: to shield your development from external influence, and to preserve the one weapon the harvesters cannot counter, the human capacity to embrace paradox. As if triggered by her words, the obsidian vessels suddenly pulsed with dark energy. The Defiance shuddered as invisible force probed its shields, seeking weakness. "They're scanning us," Rodriguez reported, "attempting to penetrate our systems." Dr. Volkov burst onto the bridge, face flushed with excitement despite the danger. "Captain, the data crystal. I've finished the analysis. It's not just information. It's a key." "A key to what, Doctor?" Reeves demanded. "To this," she replied, connecting her tablet to the main console. The ship's lights flickered momentarily, then stabilized as new code flowed through the Defiance's systems, ancient algorithms hidden within the crystal, waiting for this moment. The effect was immediate and astonishing. The ship's shields reconfigured, emitting a frequency that caused the nearest harvester vessel to recoil. A pulse of golden energy radiated outward from the Defiance, washing over the Council ships and strengthening their defenses as well. "What just happened?" Chen asked, staring at the readings in disbelief. "The ancients left us a gift," Cathal's voice explained over the comm. "Encoded knowledge that could only be unlocked by a mind evolved like yours, capable of understanding both order and chaos simultaneously." On the view screen, they could see the council chamber in chaos as representatives debated, argued, and strategized. But now, there was something new in their alien expressions: respect, directed toward the humans. The harvester vessels regrouped, preparing for what appeared to be a concentrated attack. Reeves made his decision instantly. All power to the new shield configuration. Transmit the algorithm to every council vessel. Rodriguez, target the lead harvester ship and prepare to fire. As the Defiance moved to engage, positioning itself between the station and the advancing threat, High Chancellor Vraxen's voice came through clearly on all channels. "The Galactic Council recognizes Earth effective immediately and requests assistance." Reeves allowed himself a grim smile. "Acknowledged, Chancellor. Lieutenant Rodriguez, fire at will." The Defiance launched its attack, not with conventional weapons, but with focused bursts of the golden energy now flowing through its systems. The lead harvester vessel shuddered, its obsidian surface cracking to reveal blinding light within. As the battle joined in earnest, with council ships rallying behind the human vessel, a final transmission came through from the dying harvester ship, intended not for the humans or the council, but for distant masters watching from beyond the galaxy's edge. "The SAEDWPLANTDDHA is TURND against US. The humans were nevidior TE experiment. They were TE control." 3 days after the battle, Captain Reeves stood in the Grand Council chamber, the first human to ever set foot in the ancient hall. The chamber had been hastily repaired, though evidence of the recent conflict remained in cracked pillars and scorched walls. Representatives from all 342 species watched him with a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and newfound respect. Captain Thomas Reeves of Earth, High Chancellor Vraxen's voice carried throughout the chamber. "The Galactic Council extends its formal apology for the quarantine of your homeworld and recognizes humanity as a full member of the interstellar community, effective immediately." Reeves nodded, acutely aware of the historical significance of the moment. "On behalf of Earth, I accept your apology and your recognition. We look forward to peaceful cooperation as we face this new threat together." The formality of the moment broke as Ambassador Lirith slithered forward. "The irony is not lost on us, Captain. For centuries, we feared humanity's potential for violence. Now that very trait may be our salvation." "Not just violence," Dr. Volkov corrected, standing beside Reeves. In the aftermath of the battle, she had become Earth's de facto scientific liaison. Humanity's gift is adaptation through contradiction. We embrace both logic and emotion, both cooperation and competition. We can understand the harvesters because, in some ways, we share their duality. Observer Cathal approached, his ancient form seeming to shift between states of matter. The forgotten texts make more sense now. They didn't foretell humanity's coming. They recorded your origins. The harvesters seeded many worlds, creating test species to study consciousness itself. But only on Earth did their experiment evolve beyond their control. Back aboard the Defiance, Commander Chen supervised repairs while maintaining an open channel to the council chamber. Chief Engineer Tanaka appeared at her side, wiping grease from her hands. "You know what's funny?" Tanaka said, watching the diplomacy unfold on screen. "We spent all that time preparing for first contact, worrying they'd see us as primitive savages, and now they're treating us like we're some kind of cosmic saviors." Chen smiled wryly. Turns out all those alien abductions were just advanced civilizations checking on their own insurance policy. An insurance policy that learned to shoot back, Tanaka added with a grim chuckle. In the council archives, far from the ceremony, Admiral Exanthor reviewed the recovered harvester communications with growing concern. "They will return," he stated to the small group of military leaders gathered around him. This was merely their first wave. "And we'll be ready," said Lieutenant Rodriguez, who had been assigned as Earth's military liaison. "The algorithm we extracted from the crystal is already being implemented across your fleet. Our engineers are working on further applications." The Creole representative, whose earlier hostility had been replaced by begrudging respect, leaned forward. "How can you be so confident, human? These harvesters have existed for millions of years longer than your species." Rodriguez smiled. "Because that's what humans do best, sir. We adapt, we overcome, and we never stop fighting for survival." As the meeting concluded, Captain Reeves stood alone at a viewport overlooking the vast expanse of the galactic core. Dr. Volkov joined him, her tablet displaying new information gleaned from council databases. "It's beautiful," Reeves said quietly. "All these worlds, all these civilizations we never knew existed." "And they never truly knew us," Volkov replied. "Until now." Reeves turned from the view, his weathered face set with determination. "Send word to Earth. Tell them the quarantine is lifted, but also warn them about the harvesters. We'll need every ship we can build, every mind we can train." "A new era of human history," Volkov nodded. "Not just human history," Reeves corrected, looking back at the stars, now filled with possibility and danger in equal measure. "Galactic history, and this time, we help write it." In the darkness between stars, the remnants of the harvester fleet regrouped, sending signals to their distant masters. But something unexpected happened as those signals traveled. They were intercepted, analyzed, and understood by human intelligence agencies, now working in concert with council technologists. For the first time in their ancient existence, the harvesters faced an enemy that could not only fight back, but could understand them at their most fundamental level. The hunters had created their own predator, and the galaxy would never be the same.